The 1960s were a golden era for automobiles. It was a time when cars weren't just machines. They were rolling works of art, built for style, speed, and comfort. But while they looked incredible, they weren't exactly built with safety in mind. From gleaming chrome to gadgets that seemed more like toys, the cars of the 60s had features we loved back then, but would never pass safety regulations today. Today, we're looking at 10 car features from the 60s that were wildly unsafe, but we loved them anyway. 1. No seatbelts in the front or back. In the 1960s, many cars didn't come with seatbelts as standard equipment. Some models had them as an optional extra, but most people didn't bother to install them. The idea of strapping yourself in just didn't seem necessary. Riding in a car felt like lounging in your living room until something went wrong. Seatbelts didn't become a requirement until later in the decade, and even then, many drivers ignored them. 2. Metal dashboards. Forget the soft, padded dashboard we have today. In the 60s, dashboards were often made of hard metal with sharp edges. They looked sleek and polished, but in a crash, they were a serious hazard. Even a small bump could send you face first into a steel panel. It was only when safety regulations stepped in that manufacturers began adding padding to reduce injuries. 3. Giant tailfins. One of the most iconic designs of the late 50s and early 60s was a tailfin. Inspired by jet aircraft, these fins gave cars a futuristic, space-age look, but they also made reversing dangerous. They blocked visibility and could easily scrape or poke anything behind you. By the mid-60s, tailfins were shrinking, eventually disappearing in favor of safer, more practical designs. 4. Lap-only seatbelts. When seatbelts did start appearing, they were often just a single lap strap. Better than nothing? Sure, but in a collision, they could cause serious injuries by cutting into the stomach or throwing passengers forward. It wasn't until the late 60s and 70s that shoulder belts became more common, offering real protection. 5. Bench seats in the front. Front bench seats were perfect for sliding in close to your date at the drive-in, but they had a big drawback: no side support. In sharp turns, passengers could slide right across the seat. Plus, without headrests, whiplash injuries were far more likely in accidents. Still, people loved a roomy, couch-like feel they gave to cars. 6. Ashtrays and cigarette lighters everywhere. Smoking was a part of everyday life in the 60s, and cars reflected that. Ashtrays were built into the dashboard, rear doors, and even the back of front seats. Cigarette lighters were standard features. The problem? Lit cigarettes and flammable upholstery don't mix, and it wasn't uncommon for accidents to happen because of a dropped cigarette. 7. No crumple zones. Cars in the 60s were built like tanks, heavy, solid, and made to last. But that also meant they didn't absorb crash impacts the way modern cars do. Without crumple zones, all that force went straight to the passengers. It made accidents far more deadly, even if the car itself looked barely damaged afterward. 8. Dangerous steering columns. Back then, steering columns weren't designed to collapse in a crash. In head-on collisions, the steering wheel could be pushed directly into the driver. Many serious injuries, and worse, were caused by rigid steering columns before safety designs improved in the late 60s. 9. Side mirrors that barely worked. Side mirrors in the 60s were often tiny, mounted far forward, and sometimes only on the driver's side. Blind spots were massive, and changing lanes could be a gamble. They looked stylish, but they weren't exactly helping you avoid trouble on the road. 10. No child safety features. In the 60s, the concept of a child safety seat was almost non-existent. Kids often rode standing up in the back seat, or even in the front, leaning over the dashboard. There were no seat belts, no restraints, and no real protection. It was fun and free, but incredibly dangerous. The cars of the 60s were bold, beautiful, and unforgettable, but they were far from safe. We may shake our heads at these features today, but they were part of an era when style and freedom mattered more than safety ratings. So, which of these features do you remember seeing? Would you still love to have them in a car today? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more trips down memory lane.